Let's look at the Nigerian question again. Let's examine the part we've walked through. Let's reflect on history. And let's look at the intellectual output of a Nigerian who fought in the Civil War. In this book, the author writes, on 30th May 1967, Ojukwu proclaimed the sovereign state of Biafra. There was euphoria all over the entire eastern region. In our school, Government College Umuahia, we even broke bounds and marched around the adjoining community. And some of us even went to town, which was forbidden on a non-outing day. The author says everybody was so happy and excited that students on their own lowered the Nigerian flag. It was a day that remained memorable to us then, and all adults thought the much expected time of freedom had come. We thought we could now return to normal life. Every man and woman applauded the decision in the East. Lagos, on its part, christened its rebellion and promised to quell it. I just read from the book Nigeria-Biafra Civil War, My Experience, written by a former governor of Imo State, Achike Udenwa. This is the book. This is what we are discussing. And from here, we'll also discuss the politics of the Nigerian state. My guest on State Affairs is Achike Udenwa, a former governor of Imo State. It's good to have you on State Affairs.
Thank you, viewers. It's my pleasure to appear before you today and look at the Nigerian question from where we are coming and where we are. Thank you so much.
I can call you an old soldier.
Yes, you'll be right to call me that.
You fought in the war.
Yes, I fought in the war.
You saw war.
I saw war naked in my eyes. Yeah.
War is good?
War is bad.
What makes it bad?
There's loss of life, loss of even loss of humanity. You know, war does nobody any good. War is not the best way to settle conflicts. I wish we can always adopt other conflict resolution methods than going to war. A lot of people, a lot of casualty, a lot of loss of property, destruction of the economy and everything. So war is not good.
You know, while reading your book, I was asking myself, was Achike Udenwa, as a college student, preparing himself for war? You went to your government college, Umuahia.
Yep.
And you were a young military officer cadet at the school. So the military interested you.
Yep.
So were you preparing for war?
Not at all. I was not preparing for war. We never envisaged a war. But normally, by tradition, our school had a cadet unit. And that cadet unit, from there, you could choose to go to the army. You could choose to have a military career. So a lot of our old boys by then were in the army. We produced such big officers in Nigeria-Army like Colonel G.T. Kurubo, Colonel Nwawo, not Nwawo, Colonel Anwuna, Colonel Madebo, Colonel Eze, Anthony Eze, and so many others. Onwatuegu, the Major Onwatuegu used to hear of. He went to Umaya, Captain Udaja, they all went to Umaya. So we had that tradition. A lot of them grew from the cadet unit, and from the cadet unit, they joined the Nigerian Army. So in our time, we were also enthusiastic. We joined the cadet unit, and it was a very pleasurable experience to have passed through it.
Now, you have mentioned traditional soldiers that went to government college. Mm-hmm. As you wrote in this book, you also wanted to join the army. Mm-hmm. If the Civil War had not broken out, you would have enlisted into the Nigerian Army, right?
Yes. In fact, I had already taken the entrance to Nigerian Defense Academy. I was to be part of what you called Course 3 of the Nigerian Defense Academy, which had such people like General Tundo Ogbeha, General Garba, General David Mark, Adisa, General Malu, who was the chief of army staff. They were all in that course. Pobeni, the naval officer. There were a lot of them. Mike Ahigbe, who later on became the chief of defense staff under Abdul Salam. They were all in that course 3. So I was supposed to be their course mate. And I met a lot of them later in life, and we became friends.
Why reading your excursion to Abeokuta, the Cadet National Camp in Abeokuta, I kept seeing this young man who was militarily inclined. You enjoyed those trips.
Yes, by the time we went to Abeokuta, I was about 17 years old.
And that was in 1965?
65, yes. Yes, I was about 17 years old. And it was such a tough camp. We used to go for camp annually. And the one of 1965 was in Abeokuta, somewhere along on the way to Idiroko, the boundary. Somewhere Lalate or somewhere between Tapa and the Egongon, near Abeokuta. That was where we camped. It was a very pleasurable experience. It was tough, but very rewarding, very interesting. It was very intense,
And that experience exposed you to what was going on in the Western region at the time.
Yes. And
Operation Wetier.
Operation Wetier was on at the time we were in Abeokuta. And that time, Awo was in detention, and his deputy, Adegbenro, was from Abeokuta. So there was a lot of burning of houses, a lot of arson, a lot of killings going on around Abeokuta area. And we witnessed some of them at the time.
Did they affect you negatively?
Those
experiences?
Yeah, they did. They did. To see that type of destruction at that age showed us that all was not well. He started giving us an idea of how bad Nigeria had got into.
And your excursion to the 2nd Brigade headquarters in Apapa, you saw May Malari.
Oh, yes. A very handsome officer, a brigadier at the time. But don't forget, when you say brigadier, he was only about 30-something years old. He wasn't up to 40 years old.
You could call him a boy now.
A boy now, yes. But you can imagine, he was such a very, would I say, he had a commanding posture. He was quite strong, quite agile looking and all that.
And you admired
him so much. And by that time when you saw a soldier, some of these people you hear of, I saw Ifajuna, they were young people, yet to become 30. They were in their 20s. Some of these people you hear of, we are quite young, So all that, again, makes the army more attractive to you, and you see the bonding in the army, the esprit de corps. You see them, they behave like brothers. You don't know who comes from where, unless you are told. You wouldn't know from where anybody comes. And if they were to speak any Nigerian language, all of them spoke Hausa. Yes, yes. Hausa was it was about the lingua franca in the army. So you didn't know people by their ethnicity, ethnic origin. They were all Nigerians. So all that made the army more attractive.
And you wanted to join?
Yes, yes, yes. I was determined to be there.
So by January 1966, when you began to hear the story of the first coup, and when the names of the plotters and the executioners began to come out, how did you feel?
Oh, I tell you, at first we were happy, thinking that would be the end of Nigeria's problem. Because let's face it, between 1964 and that January 66, Nigeria was in real turmoil. After the 1964 federal elections, up to the 65 Western elections, Nigeria was not in good shape. So when we heard there was a coup and the army had taken over, we saw it as a relief. We saw it that, things were now going to be better in Nigeria. We didn't know it was the beginning of our suffering.
The beginning of our suffering?
Oh yes, oh yes.
You mean that coup changed everything?
It changed everything. The esprit de corps in the army was destroyed. People began to go behind their ethnic chefs, and then the reprisal, the July counter coup came, and it scattered everything.
In this book, it's like you gave a historical account of the birth of Nigeria.
Yep.
From the Clifford Constitution to Macpherson.
Yep.
Why did you take that pattern?
Yeah, I did because it is necessary to tell the reader from where we are coming. From where did this problem start? They didn't start today. I tried to show the Nigerian society in their individualistic, ethnic or regional affinities before the white man came, and then how these constitutional arrangements came up, how the unification came up, how then the political parties started, that is the fight for independence started. So it was good for the reader to have an idea of from where we are coming, what our society looked like before this time. Then from there, we got to the 1959 elections. That was the pre-independence elections. And I think that was where the center could not hold again. It was the 1959 election. Then the census before that. The census before that. So these are the things, the role our colonial masters played.
You feel the policy of divide and rule?
Oh yes!
Nigeria
oh yes! Oh yes! Oh yes! That was why you find out whatever our colonial masters were doing, they were not doing them for our own interest. They were doing them for their own interest. You can see that later. Recently, I think it was in the 90s or so, one of the administrative officers that time gave an interview and showed how they manipulated the census figures.
In favor of the North.
In favor of the North. So these are some of the things that caused the problem. So you find out our colonial masters had their own interest, and to them, their interest was more important than our own interest.
So after independence, were we able to manage the interest of the different ethnic blocks?
No, we couldn't. We couldn't manage our ethnic differences. It is part of the problem.
And so that problem is foundational?
It's foundational.
Is that same problem that led to the Civil War?
Yes, if you follow it up, it is the same thing that continued up to the Civil War. I'll give you an example. What was Aburi all about? Well, you haven't come to that, but if I might come in. Now, Aburi was to find a solution after the two coups, after the January 15 coup 66 and the July 29 coup 66, and the disturbances that followed, the pogrom that followed. Aburi was to find a solution. So our leaders went to Aburi, they sat together and took decisions. And from grapevine, we understood that it was even our colonial masters that advised one side to say, don't accept these decisions. They are not for your own interests. And these are some of the things that led to the war.
Having reflected on the terms of the Aburi Accord,
Yep.
do you feel that accord would have solved the problem?
Yes, yes. I believe very much in Aburi Accord. The Aburi Accord is still what a lot of us are pursuing today. We are still saying, when you hear true federalism, it is all about Aburi.
Was Aburi not confederalism?
Whether you call it confederalism or not, it was to me more of true federalism.
So Gowon failed by not keeping to the terms of the Aburi Agreement.
Yeah, but remember again, when you talk of Gowon, don't see Gowon as a person there. How old was Gowon? At that point, Gowon was about 32 years old. Gowon was about 32 years old. Gowon was as naive as the rest of us.
Was Ojukwu naive?
Well, Ojukwu was not as naive as Gowon, to the extent that Ojukwu read history. Remember, he was a graduate of history. So at least he had a broader outlook.
Was he more prepared than Gowon in that meeting?
Yes, he was. Definitely. He was more. He went there more prepared.
He was prepared.
Yes, please. Yes, you will see it. You will see the signs of his preparation. Yeah, you.
So he got he got what he wanted.
He got most of what he wanted, but at the same time, Gowon, I must tell you, let people not blame Gowon. Gowon was very, very forthcoming at that meeting. He was honest to himself. He tried to find a solution to the Nigeria's problem. You will see there he was quite an innocent, honest young man looking for the unity of Nigeria. So Gowon himself believed in Aburi.
But Gowon did not say that.
Well,
when he returned to Nigeria, he gave it a different interpretation.
No, not he. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
But he released a statement.
Yeah.
He made a broadcast.
Yes.
And he gave an explanation of what Aburi meant to him and the federal government.
No, it was an afterthought. It was what I told you. The colonial masters went through the northern politicians, not Gowon. They didn't go to Gowon. They went through the northern politicians and told them the implications of Aburi. Then the permanent secretaries met and redrafted it completely and rejected most of the parts of the accord.
And the Eastern region came out to say on Aburi we stand.
And that's the beginning of the problem. That is it. That was where we lost hope, because we saw immediately they came back from Aburi and we heard how they went to Aburi. Everybody felt now Nigerian problem has been solved. But after these negotiations or consultations, the federal government came out with a statement that no, that's not what they meant.
So Achike Udenwa is also saying on Aburi he stands.
I believe in it up till now. When I talk of true federalism, that's what I mean. Look, Nigeria is a creation of...
Aburi talked about regional commands.
Yes, the army was and it was implemented. I remember in the East then, we had the Eastern Command, Eastern Regional Command under Colonel Hilary Njoku. In the West, they had Western Regional Command under, I think, Colonel Olufemi Olutoye. was the commander of the Western Command. Then they had the Midwest Command under Colonel Comrade Wawo. Under Colonel Comrade Wawo. It was the North that they hadn't quite put their own together at the time.
And you want that system now?
Well, it's not just the Army Command. It goes beyond the Army Command. You know, now the Army Command is not the most important thing in terms of whether it goes regional or not. But what we are saying, now we have 36 states that we should be able to decentralize government. Let me use that word, decentralizing government. What I would mean would be that we have to reduce the items on the exclusive legislative list in the Constitution. We reduce them and have a few things in the exclusive legislative list. Then the other ones we put in the concurrent list and the residual list.
So what would the federating units look like? The states or the regions?
Well, this is another. It's all is subject to negotiation. I cannot say exactly what is going to be, because I know some people have said, okay, we go back to the regions. While some people said, no, we have progressed to the level of states now. We cannot go back to regions again. So these are things that are subject to negotiations. They are not casting rock.
Before Aburi, Awolowo had been sent to prison.
Yep.
Before Aburi, Operation Wetier had occurred. Let's look at Awolowo and the Western Region crisis. You linked those subjects to the first coup in this book.
Yeah, they were part of why the soldiers said we must take over and reorganize Nigeria. It was part of it. Those issues were part of it. At the time, Awolowo was even in prison. They said, we bring out Awolowo and make him the Prime Minister of Nigeria. Awolowo was to be the Prime Minister.
You sure that is true?
Yes, it's true.
You mentioned Bengude wrote that in his book.
Yes, it's true. It's not just only Bengude.
Ademoyega also mentioned.
Ademoyega mentioned it. So it's not. These are the principal actors in the coup. They will not be telling us lies. They have nothing to gain by telling us lies.
But some said it was an Igbo coup.
No, it was not an Igbo coup. But let us be honest to ourselves. The majority of the coup plotters were Igbos. That is very obvious. The majority were Igbos, but that didn't make it an Igbo coup. Coup is something of confidence. Can I trust you? Absolute confidence. It's not just confidence, 50% or 80%. It must be 100% absolute confidence for me to plot a coup with you.
Because it's a matter of life and death.
Life and death. It is even a question of if you only hear about it, you are guilty and you don't report. So it's something of absolute confidence. So maybe a lot of them being Igbos would mean that they had more confidence among themselves.
And you said about 60% of the middle rank officers.
Oh yes, we are all Igbos.
Yes, and that was the group that plotted the coup.
Yes. In that group, when you had lieutenant colonels, majors, captains, the bulk of them at the time were Igbos.
You said the execution, the intention was good, but the execution was poor.
Yes.
You made that point
I also made that point clear. Yes, because we are all human. That I'm an Igbo doesn't make me think the other way around. See, as me and you have agreed, most of the plotters were Igbos, and most of the casualties were non-Igbos. So, no matter how well-intentioned they might have been, any other person will just think that the Igbos wanted to eliminate the other people. That might not be the intention, but that would be the reading. Let's be honest. If it had been the other way around, the intention will still be there.
Only one Igbo officer was killed. Ato Negbe.
Ato Negbe. And we don't know. We tried to find out why Ato Negbe was killed, and a lot of people say that Ato Negbe was also, I think he was a compromised officer. He was politicized. He was taking part in some of the meetings with the politicians. I don't know how true it is.
Let's read from your book.
Okay.
On page 50, you said Major Chukwuman Zogu seemed to sum up the justification for the coup.
Okay.
When in a chat with Bengbule before the coup, he asserted.
Yep.
So this is what Nzogu said.
Yep.
The killings in the West must be stopped. These narrow-minded, bloodthirsty politicians have been spilling innocent blood unchallenged for too long. These narrow-minded, bloodthirsty politicians. Narrow-minded. You agree with him?
Yep.
Has anything changed?
Not much. The same thing.
The same thing?
Yeah.
He went further.
Yep.
And we must stamp out tribalism.
Fine.
It is the one sacred duty we have to perform to save this country from destruction.
Thank you.
Nzogu is still speaking to Bengbule.
Yep.
To frustrate those politicians who are busy making Nigeria a mere geographical appellation. To restore people's confidence. To put an end to the corruption and chaos. You know, Ben, it is very odd why the army is busy teaching you and me esprit de corps and things like that. These bloody demagogues of politicians are constantly reminding us that we are not brothers at all, but people from completely different tribes.
Yep.
Yep.
That will tell you how the soldiers thought. Their thoughts were different.
Was this revolutionary thoughts?
Yes, please. Very revolutionary. Very, very revolutionary. And they didn't show any level of tribalism in it. And let us, the two principal beneficiaries, if the coup had succeeded, were going to be Awolowo, being the president, and Lieutenant Colonel David Ejo to be the army commander. None of them is an Igbo man. None of these two is Igbo. So why would they choose Awo to be the president and choose David Ejo to be GOC of the army at the time?
But I'm wondering why they zeroed in on Awolowo.
Well, let me be honest with you. I also agreed with that, their choice. At the time, Awo was very, very intelligent. Awo had a clear idea of where Nigeria should be going. Well, I once mentioned it to some of my colleagues. If I'm a Yoruba man, I would die for Awo. The only problem Awo had at the national level was I didn't see him looking much as a nationalist. But in terms of being articulate, in terms of being intelligent, in terms of having a roadmap, he had all that.
He had very high mental magnitude.
Oh yes. I will rate him against any politician of his time.
So Juku was right that Awo was the president Nigeria never had?
Yes, please. That's the truth. There's none of his contemporaries you rate with him in terms of intellectual ability, in terms of commitment, even in terms of discipline. Awo was very disciplined. He was a very disciplined man in all aspects of life. You could never hear our personal aggrandizement, but he was a successful businessman also. But that didn't make him a corrupt politician. He wasn't corrupt. He wasn't personally corrupt. You had the Coca Commission of Inquiry at the time, and which found him corrupt. It's not personal corruption. It was his party that was corrupt, which was common with any of the political parties. How were they funded? They were funded from state resources. Up to now, how are the parties funded? From state resources. That's the level, that's the type of corruption I was involved in. So I agreed with the choice of the coup plotters.
The execution was poor.
Yep.
And it led to a counter coup.
Yes.
A bloody counter coup.
Yep.
Aguiyi was taken out.
Yep.
Many Igbo officers were taken out in Abeokuta. And the program was launched.
Yeah.
In the north.
Yeah.
And before we knew it,
Yeah.
Achike Udenwa was in the trenches.
Okay, thank you.
You remember your days in the trenches?
I remember very, very well, like as if it were yesterday.
You still have the picture in your mind?
Oh yes.
You know, when you were trying to convince your mother to allow you go to war, why did you do that to her? As the only son.
You know, at the time you could imagine, how old was I? I was under 20 at the time. Under 20. I was 19 plus at that particular time. So you can imagine the enthusiasm. You know, you can imagine the enthusiasm to go to war.
You didn't think you were going to die?
No. I always believed I would survive. And I survived.
When you were talking to your mom, can you describe the feeling? How was she feeling at that time?
Oh, she was feeling unconvinced, I would say. But eventually, she succumbed when I assured her I wouldn't go to the front. I would just be in the rear and, you know.
And she believed you?
She reluctantly believed me.
And you broke your promise?
Yes.
You went to the front?
I knew I would go to the front. You couldn't be a soldier and you promise you won't go to the front.
And you saw war?
Yes, we did.
Remember when Ahuada fell? When Ahuada fell?
Oh, on the 27th of August. Yes, 27th of August, 1968.
You remember Otaba Command?
Yes.
You remember?
I remember it all. They're all fresh in my memory.
How come you went to the riverine area? Who deployed you there?
Well, this is it. When we were commissioned, by then there were no divisions. You had only the brigades. So we were grouped. And each group, they would say this group is going to, for example, 54 Brigade. This group is going to 52 Brigade. This group is going to so-and-so brigade, and my own group was going to Rivers Brigade. That was the name at the time, Rivers Brigade. We headquarters in Ahoda.
Many of your friends were running away from that zone.
Oh, yes.
And you were ready to go.
Yes. Let me tell you, it's not just because I was more courageous than other people. No. But I made up my mind in the army never to influence my posting. Wherever I'm sent, and that's where I will go. And that was the situation throughout the war. I never for one day influenced my posting.
So some were influencing their posting?
Yes. But you see, this was my own belief that wherever I'm posted, that it is where God wants me to go. That was the faith I held. I held that belief, and it helped me throughout the war, despite the sufferings and all that. You still come out alive.
You were posted to Otaba?
Yes, I was posted to Ahuda, from Ahuda to Abua. Abua was the company battalion headquarters. From Abua, then I went to Otaba. I was in charge of Otaba.
riverine area, yet you could not swim.
I didn't know how to swim.
At some point, you didn't have fear to power your power boats.
No, we didn't. So we were using the ordinary paddling boat paddle.
And Nigeria had speedboats.
Oh, they were just always crossing. You hear them.
And when they are coming, what happens? You hide?
Yeah, we fired them. We fired them.
With your rifle?
Yes, we fired them.
But they had superior weapons.
Oh, they had very superior weapons. And
you were firing at those with superior weapons?
Yes.
And you could see the way they dealt with you?
Yes.
At some point, they had to cut you guys off.
Oh, yes.
And you became frustrated and stranded.
That was in Ahuda, yes.
You know, that journey I felt for you. You know, the journey through the forest with Cletus.
Oh, okay.
While I was reading your book, I said, oh God, I hope. At the point, if it was a movie, I would say, I hope he will not die. Because you have written a book, I know he didn't die. But you know, the way you painted the picture, that was grueling.
Yes, that I will tell you, would I say it was my worst experience in the army, throughout my stay in the army. That Ahuda incident was my worst experience.
What happened?
Well, to cut a long story short, when we pulled out, the Nigerians were now in Elela Lemeli. If you know the geography of the place, Elela Lemeli is just the next place from Ahuda. You know, it's close to Ahuda. Between Elele, the main Elele, you know, and Ahuda, you have Elela Lemeli in the middle. Very close to, even a trekking distance between Elela Lemeli and Ahuda. So when they were in Ahuda, they were threatened, and we were in Abua. And not just in central Abua, we were in Otaba. In the, just almost in the creeks. So, well, the brigade had to give instruction that anybody that was in that area should please come out. Because if they took Ahuda, every other person there is cut off. And you won't go, you will have no other place to go. So we had to come out quickly. And then by the time we came out, we had to engage them at Elela Lemeli. And once again, because of we were able to hold them on that day we arrived late in the evening. We held them on throughout that night. Got to the following day, we were able to attack them, and we were able to move into their camp. But unfortunately, we didn't have enough ammunition to hold on. So they pushed us out. We came out of the camp. We found a good defensive position. And then we sent a recce, that is reconnaissance, to go and find out what they were doing. And they were forming up, ready to come for attack. And we reported to our headquarters, look at what is happening. Can we have enough ammunition and that so that we can attack them before they come out? We were told ammunition was coming, food was coming, this was coming, and none came. So when they were ready, they attacked us. And it was a massive attack. Massive attack.
Many Biafran soldiers were cut down.
We lost a lot of people. So by the time, entering from Elela Lemeli into Ahuda, and we coming from Ahuda to Elela Lemeli, I was on the left flank. So we kept on fighting until they were able to break through the main axis and got to the bridge. There's a bridge that is inside Ahuda town there. They got to that bridge, blew the bridge. So we, on this side, had no other way to come out. So we were lost there. And we stayed in the bush, no compass. We didn't have a compass. You didn't have communication to link up with your colleagues on the other side. So we are just lost on our own and scattered in the bush there. So we stayed for 4 days, me and that Cletus. We were together for 4 days.
In the bush?
In the bush, until we were able to come out by the help of a woman who came into the farm. Because we were in the vast farm, a big farm.
We were eating raw corn.
Raw corn. That was the only food that was available to us. Because that time, remember, it was around July, August. I think that rainy season period. Only corn was available in the bush.
You were drenched. The rain could beat you, and the sun would dry you.
Oh, yes.
I could see your pictures while I was reading.
That's the worst period I spent in the army. Throughout the war, that was my worst period.
And you survived.
And we managed to come out.
By this time, your mom got the news that you were dead.
Yes. But then, I would say it was destiny that God just brought us out. It was a long journey.
Perhaps that lady was an angel.
An angel. In fact, by the time we even came out to the village, the last village there, Demisami, they said we can't cross the water. That the Nigerian soldiers were coming back, that they came that day, and they had gone back to Ahuda, and will be coming back the following morning. That we can't cross. That if we cross, that the Nigerian soldiers will kill them. So it was just a boy, somebody of our age, who volunteered and got some boatmen, and they smuggled us out at night.
While this lasted, you didn't drop your rifle.
Yeah, they insisted that they cannot ferry us across with rifle. We told them that if we arrive in Biafra without our rifles, we'll be killed. Yeah, we'll be court-martialed. So we arrived at a compromise. We emptied our magazine. So we carried empty rifle without even one ammunition.
An empty rifle is useless, right?
Yes, please. And eventually we were saved.
Yeah.
I tell you, it was my most horrible time in the war. I never had a more horrible time in the war than that period.
Your story of the war in this book is more about your activities in the trenches.
Yes, please.
This is Achike Udenwa's book, Nigeria-Biafra Civil War, My Experience. Now, in this book, you'll find the beauty of history. In this book, you'll see the horrors of war. In this book, you will study political equations, political intrigues, political understanding. Because what the author has done was to give us a chronological account of the Nigerian state. Before independence, post-independence, and after the war. It's a book you should read. It is one of the classics on the Nigerian Civil War, written by Achike Udenwa, a former governor of Imo State. You can get this book on udarabooks.com. You can also order this book through the WhatsApp numbers on the screen. Beautiful book. The first time I saw this book, and I saw Achike Udenwa, I said, Achike Udenwa, do politicians write good books? Because that was the first thing that came into my mind. A former PDP governor of Imo State. Where will he have time to write a good book? I said, okay, I must read this book. When I started reading it, I said, okay, Achike Udenwa can also write.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to write?
Yeah, I decided to write because before this my book, I had read books from Malebo, books from Bembulie, the one from Ademoyaga, the one from Joe Garba, and a few others. And okay, they were writing from their own perspective. They were writing about the roles they played in the coup, and when they talk about the war, they are talking of the upper level of the confrontation. And I felt that none of them was in the trenches with us, and that they needed, that the public needed to read about what actually happened in the trenches. And some of my colleagues and contemporaries later on, who I told a little bit of these pieces of some of these stories, said, please put them together. And I felt, after I left as governor, I felt that this was the time to sit down and put down these things in writing. And that was what I did.
Thank you for writing this book.
Oh, thank you very much.
You know, one area that also interested me of your activities in the trenches is the defense of Oguta.
Okay.
Because you said if Oguta fell, it would have been the end of the war.
Yes, please.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, you see, Oguta is strategically placed. Oguta was a stone throw from Uli Airport. Oguta is a stone throw from the Ebema oil fields, which was the only means of supplying crude oil to Biafra. And without crude oil and the activities of the several refineries that sprang up in Biafra, Biafra would have ended. Biafra would have been grounded. So Oguta was so strategic. If the Nigerians took charge of Oguta, that would be the end of the war. So Biafra put in everything to be able to defend Oguta. Even Ojukwu came to the war front.
Ojukwu came to the war front?
Yes, he came. Yeah.
You saw him?
No. I didn't see him because I wasn't even involved in the Oguta operation. But it was my unit that fought in Oguta. It was the time I was convalescing after I had gotten injured in Omok.
Yeah, bullet penetrated your shoulder.
Yes, please, yes. It was during that period, I was convalescing in my village. I used to go as an outpatient to the hospital. So it was there I was monitoring what was happening in Oguta because that was where my colleagues were. My unit was fighting there. So I knew everything that happened there.
And Oguta did not fall?
Oh, Oguta, they entered. They entered Oguta, but they were pushed back. And that was where Nigeria lost the ferret, that's the armored ferret we captured, which was christened Oguta Boy.
Oguta Boy.
Oguta Boy. I was privileged later on to fight in Owerri with Oguta Boy.
So Oguta Boy was a rugged armored vehicle?
Oh, very rugged. But it's not the big one. The big one was the Kopuwafo. We had
that was captured in Onitsha.
That was captured in Abagana. Yes.
Okay.
In Abagana near Onitsha. Yes, please. Yeah.
So Biafra could not afford its own armored vehicles.
Well, Biafra only manufactured its own. You know, at the time, our engineers in RAP also did some work.
You converted jeeps?
They converted some of these Caterpillar, this eight-moving equipment, into armored vehicles. Some of them worked, but they hadn't perfected the technology.
So while the war was going on, Biafran technology was growing?
Oh, yes. Biafran technology was one of the things that sustained the war. If it was not for Biafran technology, the war wouldn't have lasted as much as it did.
Ogbunigwe was Biafran technology?
Ogbunigwe was Biafran technology. Even the bullets. A lot of the bullets were manufactured in Biafra.
You were manufacturing bullets?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Oh yes, it was the same rap that started the refinery. You know, before we thought refinery was such a very big deal. At a time in Biafra, we had the biggest refinery which was owned by the Biafran government. That one was the major refinery. But almost every other brigade, my brigade had a refinery. So the refinery became a small thing, and it was from these Biafran scientists.
So if Uguta had been captured,
Oh,
they would have cut you off from Egbema
yes, completely.
and cut you off from Uli Airport.
Yes, please.
Uli Airport was the only airstrip at the time?
Well, there was one in Uga, but that was a smaller airfield. But the major airfield that took the whole, from where all our relief materials came, from where all our arms and ammunition came, was Uli Airport.
So all your ammunitions were ferried in from the air?
Yes, please.
You have been blockaded on the land and water?
Completely.
Why did you allow that to happen?
100%.
Why did it happen?
Well, with the capture of Calabar, Bonny, and Port Harcourt, the sea line was completely
You had no access to the sea?
No access.
So Biafra could not defend the sea?
No.
Why?
They didn't have the wherewithal. How many? Biafra had some small gunboats. Did they have fighting boats? They had some small gunboats. And also, Nigeria made a treaty with Cameroon. So we couldn't get anything coming in from Cameroon. That's what you hear about the Bakassi issue. Nigeria ceded Bakassi to Cameroon in order to achieve that blockade.
Interesting.
Interesting, very interesting.
Mm.
That's how Cameroon took over Bakassi today.
Land blockade, sea blockade.
Yes, completely.
So Biafra was trapped.
Completely trapped.
And the planes could not bring in enough.
No, there's a limit to what the plane can bring. Well, how much can you bring enough food to feed a whole nation?
Hunger became a problem.
Hunger was the major problem. And I can tell you emphatically that if it were not for hunger, the war would not have ended at the time it did. The war ended not out of lack of ammunition. We had passed that stage. Toward the end of the war, we were militarily stronger.
So weapons were not coming in.
More weapons were coming in. More sophisticated weapons. This AK-47, we started using AK-47. But when the war started, we were having Mark IV rifles and SMC, the one that the range cannot be up to 50 meters. The SMC rifle, and then the Mark IV. These were the things we were using. But by the time, toward the end of the war, we had gotten a lot of AK-47, SLR. We got some more sophisticated weapons, even the anti-aircrafts, more sophisticated mortar bombs, mortar guns. We had gotten more sophisticated equipment.
But by this time, hunger was making war.
Hunger had taken its toll. To the extent that at that time, you could hardly get a soldier to carry a rifle. Not to talk about shooting it.
They were so weak.
Oh, very weak.
They were hungry.
Very hungry, and even some almost naked, tattered. So even pneumonia and the rest of them came in.
How come food could not come in enough?
No. From where? From where would it come? From where would it come?
Biafra could not grow its own food?
Oh, most of the food producing areas of Biafra were at that time in the hands of the Nigerians. Look at the whole of that Abakaliki side was in the hands of the Nigerians. Look at the whole of that Ahuda, Elele, that area again that was rich food-wise, was in the hands of Nigerians. Look at this part, like Egbema. Ohaji, that could produce a lot of cassava and all that. We are all in the hands of Nigerians. So what was left for Biafra at the time was the dry land, the central land, the dry land.
You were the Umaya houses.
Were Umaya or low Newi, that dry land. So couldn't produce his own food.
So Awolowo was right.
Oh yes, he knew what he was talking.
The hunger
is a legitimate instrument of war.
And you saw it?
We saw it. We saw it. We saw it. Yeah, we in the forward location, we knew that the end was very close.
You were also hungry?
Well, yes. I wouldn't say, but at my level, I could access some of the food. That's one of the issues. Like, I could access some of the food from the relief agencies.
You were an officer?
Yes. I was a captain, which at that time was a senior officer, So I could access food. So my own level of hunger was not the same.
There was kwashoko in the villages?
Oh, yes. Even there was kwashoko among the soldiers. You see a soldier, you can count his ribs. So that was the situation we found ourselves. And that was what actually led to the end of the war. Hunger. Not military armament. We are stronger. I saw weapons I'd never seen throughout
Did you say Biafrans were stronger?
Huh?
Did you say Biafrans were stronger?
Militarily?
Yes.
Yeah, equipment-wise.
Not equipment-wise, but in terms of courage and skills.
Oh, no. In terms of courage, the Biafrans were, all the time, we are well ahead of the Nigerians. That was obvious.
What was Ojukwu like during the war?
Well,
did he lead well? Was he an inspirational leader during the war?
Oh, very, very inspirational. And again, he had command of English. He spoke very well, and he could convince people. And even when morale was so down, his speech tried to raise our morale, both the soldiers and the civilians. And he was quite a courageous leader.
There was Biafra radio?
Oh, when you listen to Biafra radio and you listen to Koko Ndem, there was an Okoko Ndem.
Yeah.
He hails from Cross River, from Calabar, Cross River. He was fantastic. And
Atlanta Achebe was part of the team that wrote the script for Koko Ndem.
Oh, yes. Not only Achebe, Quincy, all the people you knew, all the good writers you knew.
So the Igbo intellectuals
were involved in all aspects of the war. Igbo intellectuals were completely involved. Even this research and production I was talking of that was producing weapons and all that, they were Igbo intellectuals. Many of them were professors and lecturers in the universities who formed big scientists, who formed those production units. Yeah, they were engineers, scientists, physicians, all sorts of sciences.
While I was reading the Ahira Declaration,
yep,
you could see Ojukwu enunciating the philosophy of Biafra. Defining the future of Biafra. How Biafra will be scientifically strong. He saw scientific revolution. So perhaps he got that inspiration from what the intellectuals were doing.
Oh, yes. If you looked at Biafra at the time, you would be convinced that this was a nation different from the other nations in Africa. Yeah, it had all. Look, if the Nigerians enter a town, push Biafrans out of this town, before the next day, you see another town has grown by the side there. Biafrans will just make this place more habitable. Look, that was everything Everybody was cooperating. Everybody was involved. The intellectuals, the youths, even the old men. Everybody was contributing quota.
You started the war from the Onitsha end.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
That's where you started the war.
Yes, that's where I started.
You experienced the devastating River Niger crossing of the Nigerian soldiers.
Oh, yes. That one happened in my presence. I took part in it.
What happened?
Well, what happened was after Biafra pulled out of the Midwest, I'm sure you know the history.
Yes,
how
Victor Banjo.
How we entered the Midwest and how we came back. After Biafra pulled out of Midwest and blew the bridge. You know that bridge, that River Niger bridge was commissioned in January 1966. It was about the last major assignment Tafawa Balewa did in January 1966. I was at the Onitsha end of that bridge the day Tafawa Balewa commissioned it. So, could you imagine that bridge was blown? The Biafrans blew it when they were crossing from Asaba back to Onitsha. After crossing, it was blown. So the Nigerians could not use the bridge to cross. So they had to use the old ferry, which was near Holy Trinity Cathedral and what we call the Osa Market, that area. That was where they used. So after Biafra had come back and blown the bridge, and the Nigerians kept bombarding Onitsha with artillery fire every day, and then the planes will come in, bomber and the fighter, they will come in every day. They will finish, they will bomb Onitsha from morning to night. I'm telling you, I was there in Onitsha then. And one night, they crossed by ferry into Onitsha. So the following day, we went for a counter-attack. And they couldn't exist in Onitsha. After about 4 or 5 days, they were pushed out. Those who survived ran back to Asaba, crossed back. That is, some boats that were still, reinforcements that were coming from Asaba had to run back. Those who had already crossed were scattered, some were killed, some fled to Ocha and Sugbe and the other neighboring areas. That was what happened in Onitsha at the time. So after that, they made a second attempt. I think it was in November again. They made a second attempt to come into Onitsha through the water. That one was Kurokuro in the afternoon. They started crossing, not knowing that the Biafrans were inside the bunkers. And Biafrans blew those ships. They gave them very devastating casualty.
And many of the soldiers could not swim.
No. That's it. So
they died in large numbers.
Yeah, very large number. Even if we could swim, to swim across the river Niger would not be a joke.
War.
You know. So that was how the situation was in Onitsha. It continued till March. They started coming by road.
So they eventually captured Onitsha?
Yes. They came in from Oka to Abagana, and then they got to Onitsha. And that was where you had that Abagana ambush, which Biafrans did.
You know, you made a point in this book that if Victor Banjo had not stopped in Ore, that perhaps the war would have been won earlier.
Yes. It was the turning, to me, I regarded that incident as the turning point of the war. That is what I personally regarded it as the turning point of the war.
You were like stating that Victor Banjo failed Biafra.
Oh, yes.
How?
Oh, yes. You see, well, Ojukwu gave him that command. I was there. the night before the crossing, I was there in Onitsha. I saw the massing of troops, 11 battalion, 18 battalion, 12 battalion. These were the 3 battalions that crossed from the east. And they were joined by friendly troops in the Midwest. And they took Benin without a fight. 1 battalion, that's 18, went to Warri. 12 battalion went to Auchi. Then 11 battalion was on the main axis, went to Ore. And they were halted in Ore. But the plan was to take Ibadan and Lagos the same day, which was very simple. But they were halted there. And when Ojukwu asked Banjo what he was doing in Ore, he said he was trying to reorganize the troops. And then people were wondering, how can you be reorganizing troops who have not even fired a shot? There was no fighting.
And you said Banjo was in Ore?
Yes.
Negotiating with Awolowo?
Yes.
And Obasanjo?
Yes. Obasanjo was the commander in that axis from Ibadan to Ore. Obasanjo was in charge of that axis. But we learned that he didn't agree with Banjo.
What was Banjo negotiating about?
Who knows? To get the cooperation of the Western soldiers. That's what we heard. But later on, things proved otherwise, that it was a deliberate attempt, that they had their own, some of the January 15 coup plotters. That will show you again that it was not an Igbo coup. It was not merely an Igbo coup. Some of the January 15 coup plotters now agreed. That's what we heard later on, what we discovered later on. They now agreed that they will get to Lagos, denounce Biafra, reintegrate Nigeria, and take over the rulership of Nigeria again. That was their plan.
Ifajuna was part of that plan?
Yes.
So when Banjo was in Ore,
yeah,
Soyinka was the middleman?
Yeah. Yes, Soyinka was the go-between between him and Awolowo. This is what we were told at the time.
Could that be the reason Gowon arrested Wole Soyinka?
Yes. They saw him as a saboteur.
So you felt that Banjo betrayed the war?
He did. If you knew what was happening at the time, you would know that if he had taken Ibadan and Lagos the way they planned to do, the war would have been over.
Would it have been easy to take Lagos?
Oh, yes. We had troops in Lagos. There were no troops in Lagos. All the troops were in the forward locations. Lagos was administrative. What you will see there is people of S&T, people of ordnance, military police. What again? There was no fighting troop in Lagos.
You stated in your book that delay gave the Nigerian side the opportunity to reorganize.
Yes. And then their counter-attack, you can see from where their counter-attack came. Their counter-attack never came from Lagos. There were no troops in Lagos. Their counter-attack came all the way from the north, the present-day Kogi State. Lokoja to Auchi side.
Perhaps Banjo should not have returned to Biafra.
Perhaps if he knew, he wouldn't have returned. He would have been safe.
You know, in this book, Madiebo suggested, this is Madiebo's book,
okay,
on the war, the Nigerian Revolution and the Biafran War, the aftermath. Mm-hmm. This is the new edition. In this book, Madiebo suggested that Ifajuna came to meet him, mm-hmm, to join him to plan a coup.
Yes.
To remove Ojukwu.
Yes, that was their plan. It was the grand plan they had.
To remove Ojukwu.
It is the same people, the January 15 coup people.
So when they returned to Biafra, Ojukwu rounded them off.
Yes. And they were tried. There was a justice, I remember it, Justice What's the name of this judge from Obosi? Justice Nkemena Commission of Inquiry. That was the judge that found Banjo and Ifajuna guilty. Yeah. And then put back some people like Ademoyaga, Chukwuka, put them back to prison. They spent the rest of their life in prison until after the war. Yeah. Mm. But the principal people were Banjo, Ifajuna, and then civilian Alale, Major Alale, he was an emergency commission officer.
But we must make it clear, Banjo was not part of the January coup.
Yes, Banjo did not take part in January coup, but he was sympathetic to the January 15 coup and was detained after that. You know, Banjo was also in prison after the January 15 coup, but he was not part of it.
How did you feel when Ojukwu left Biafra?
Oh, that was when we knew that it was all over. Well, at that time, we in the sector where we were already knew that things were very, very bad. So it didn't come as a big shock to us. Because at that time, Owerri had fallen. We knew it was, the airport was a stone throw, from Owerri.
So if he had not left at that time?
He must leave. If he didn't leave, they would capture him alive. And how could that be? Mm. What consequences will he have for Biafra? So it was good he left. Yeah.
And the war ended.
Yeah. It was a very sad period. Very, very sad period. I remember it too well.
You know, I've read a lot about the war. As we talk about the war, you can still see some young persons in Igbo land still want Biafra. Mm-hmm. Some of them have picked up arms against the state. Mm-hmm. So there is insurrection in Igbo land as we speak. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about this? Especially from the area where you come from.
Yeah, you see, most times we, the elders, keep advising that war is no good. Let's not go back to war again. If you have not seen the war, you have not seen the devastation, you have not seen the economic destruction, oh no, you will not know that war is never good. We should not try it again. We should try more negotiated means that will not involve fighting. And that is why some of us have been advocates. Till tomorrow, I'll continue to be an advocate of true federalism. Because to me, that is something that can ensure some stability and ensure some access to government at the lower level. You have more powers at the lower level. Like, take for instance, police. What is police? Why will you have just a federal police? In developed countries, you have the local, you have the federal police, you have the regional police, you have the state police, you have the local government police. You have police at all levels. But in our own, is one command. In fairness, as a governor, I know it. I knew it. I suffered it.
You suffered it?
Yes. You could not give instruction easily to your commissioner of police. If you give instruction to your commissioner of police, he will clear with his IG. But you are the chief security officer of the state. You know what is happening. But the commissioner of police can never take your instruction on such issues, sensitive issues, without referring to his IGP.
Was it frustrating for you?
Very frustrating. Yeah, it was. His IG can tell him no. And he wouldn't do it.
Did you report to Obasanjo at any time?
No. Obasanjo cannot do anything about it.
The IG is responsible to him.
Yes. He can only call the IG and ask him what happened. IG will explain.
So in that case, the IG could be more powerful than the governor.
Yes, that the governor, as far as security is concerned at the state level, the IG is more powerful because the commissioner of police reports to IG, and if he doesn't obey the IG will throw him out from the estate and post in somebody else.
So the commissioner can disobey the governor.
Yes, why not? The commissioner can disobey the governor as long as he has the approval of his IG.
And you were called the chief security officer.
And you are the chief security officer. So I'm just giving this as an example. So that's why we are advocating, and I will still be, a student of and supporter of true federalism.
But these young persons in Igbo land today are not talking about federalism.
No.
They want Biafra.
Yes, they want Biafra, but it's not easy. It's not easy.
They are occupying communities.
I agree.
If you go to places like Olu or
my own community is also part of it. So this is the problem we're having.
Are the elders in Igbo land speaking loud enough?
Yes, you are.
Is anybody listening?
Well, who will listen?
How come they don't listen to their elders? There must be something wrong. Is it that the elders have failed in the past?
Well, you see, it always happens. During, like the war period, people like Zeke didn't want declaration of Biafra. Did we listen? So it is like that. It's not new. Such things are not new. The elder can see something you as a small boy you cannot see. But you act on the spur of the moment. We want this. We want to do that. So to them, there is some euphoria. We want to get Biafra. It's a euphoria. So if you are advising, they will not listen to you, but we are still pleading. We have always been pleading. Please, let there be peace. Let's not militarize the Southeast.
But it's already militarized.
Yeah, it's already militarized.
You have soldiers at different checkpoints.
Oh yes.
You have Ibubago with different kinds of guns.
So that has not helped the security situation.
So it's a volatile region.
Very volatile.
Because even sometimes when I go in, it's like I'm sneaking in.
Oh yes. It's volatile. These are some of the problems. But we think that true federalism can solve some of these. When people see government nearer them, a lot of things will change. And secondly, it will make for national cohesion. Because why are we fighting for election? Why are we killing ourselves for election? The control of the federal resources. Because federal government controls everything. And we are all fighting to get there. That's the cause of the problem we're having in Nigeria. But if you decentralize, there will not be too much attraction at the center. The attraction at the center will be less. So it will not be a do or die affair to get to the center. You have a more stable polity.
So with this kind of polity, can we reenact that scientific revolution that Ndibo showed during the war? Can we still reenact that in Igbo land today?
When you say can we, who are the we?
Igbo people.
Under what common fronts? It depends. We can. It's not just only, after all, the scientists are, more and more scientists are born today. They haven't finished. More and more are coming.
But it seems we are consuming people.
Yeah, because there is no incentive for production. These are some of the things. And when you have this decentralization and there is competition, healthy competition among the states will begin to recruit their best people. And today, it is not peculiar to the Igbos. It's not their preserve. Each people will have their own scientists and all that, entrepreneurs, all that can come and help develop their own state. So there will be development in all parts of Nigeria. It's not just Igbo land. Every part of Nigeria under a decentralized federal government, under true federalism, every part of Nigeria will be able to develop.
We've been talking about the war. Achike Udenwa is my guest. He's the author of the book, Nigeria-Biafra Civil War, My Experience. Order your copy on udarabooks.com. You can also order your copy on Udara Books WhatsApp numbers. The numbers are on the screen. Order books on the war that are interesting reads. The Nigerian Revolution and the Biafran War, The Aftermath, written by Alexandra Madiebo. He later became the head of the Biafran Army.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Did you meet him during the war?
Oh yeah, well, many times. He was the we used to call him the GOC of the army. He was the general officer commanding Biafran Army.
After Njoku was removed?
After Hilary Njoku, yeah.
Another book that will help you understand where we are coming from, Why We Struck, by Adewale Ademoyega, one of the majors that planned and executed the January 1966 coup. Why We Struck. Obasanjo has given us a biography of the man Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogu. Nzogu led the coup in the north. You know, some would say he did a tidy job. He executed his own part of the coup, while others failed in their own. Read this book about Nzogu. He died during the Nigerian Civil War. Nzogu by Obasanjo. This is the latest book on Ojukwu, written by Kanayo Isinulo. I've interviewed him. It's a good read. Ojukwu Ezai, Diplomacy and Survival by Kanayo Isinulo. It is the latest work on Ojukwu. Awolowo was part of the war. We've talked about how Awolowo talked about hunger as a weapon of war. If you want to get Awolowo's views on the war, Awo on the Nigerian Civil War, his thoughts and his words are all captured in this book. Awolowo on the Nigerian Civil War. Now, this is what I call the diary of the war, a chronological account of the war. You know, the day-by-day happening. I said this is one of the best books on the war. It's not just about the thoughts of the author. It was giving you a chronological account of what happened day by day. You know, he got report from New York Times, from the World Press, speeches delivered by Ojukwu, Gowon, Nnamdi Azikiwe. You'll find them here. It's a big book, more than 750 pages. The untold story of the Nigeria-Biafra War, a chronological reconstruction of the events and circumstances of the Nigerian War, written by Dr. Luke Naimeka Aneke. You see the book? Untold Story of the War. So these are what books we are recommending to you. You will find these books on udarabooks.com. Chief Achike Udenwa, thank you for featuring on State Affairs.
Thank you.